A mind doesn't stop growing loudly. It stops quietly, through 9 small habits that feel completely normal from the inside. Here's how to spot them, starting with the one almost everyone has. Because a mind doesn't announce its own decline. It doesn't crash. It doesn't ache. It just quietly starts choosing the same thoughts, the same routes, the same opinions, the same version of itself. And from the inside, it feels like peace. It feels like finally knowing who you are. But the research tells a very different story about what a growing mind actually looks like. Growth is uncomfortable. Growth is unfinished. Growth is a little embarrassing because it means the person you were last year was slightly wrong. A stalled mind, on the other hand, is smooth. It's confident. It's tidy. It has answers before questions. And that's exactly what makes it so hard to notice, in yourself and in the people you love. So here are 9 quiet habits that reveal a mind that has quietly stopped growing, drawn from what psychologists have observed for decades about how curiosity, learning, and identity actually work. And I'd bet you'll recognize at least one of them. Probably not the one you expect. Sign 1. They stop asking questions they don't already know the answer to. A stalled mind still asks questions, but only the safe ones, the ones that confirm what it already believes. Real questions carry risk because the answer might rearrange something inside you. Psychologists studying curiosity from Todd Kashdan onward describe genuine curiosity as a tolerance for the discomfort of not knowing. When that tolerance fades, questions turn into performances. You can hear it in the way they say, "Isn't that right?" instead of "What do you think?" From the outside, it looks like confidence. From the inside, it's a mind that has quietly decided it's done being surprised. And the next habit hides even better than this one. Sign 2. Every new idea gets sorted before it gets understood. Watch how they respond when they hear something unfamiliar. There's no pause, no turning it over, no, wait, say that again. It's immediately labeled left, right, woo, nonsense, obvious, old news. This is what cognitive scientists call premature categorization, and it's the brain's way of saving energy. The mind files the idea before it actually meets it. From the outside, it looks decisive. It's actually a shortcut that skips the part where thinking happens. A growing mind lingers in the "I don't know yet" a little longer than is comfortable. A stalled one can't stand that silence. And once you notice this reflex in someone, you'll start noticing something else, how their entire self-story never quite changes. Sign 3. Their stories about themselves never update. Notice how the same 3 anecdotes come out at every dinner. The time they were brave, the time they were wronged, the time they were wronged, the time they were right, and no one listened. Narrative psychologists like Dan McAdams have shown that a healthy identity is a story we quietly revise as we age. We reinterpret old chapters with new understanding, and the villains get more human, the heroes get more flawed, the past gets more textured. A stalled mind stops revising. The stories harden, the villains stay villains, the younger self stays a hero or a victim, never a person still being figured out. It looks like consistency, it's actually a museum. And the next sign is what happens when you try to walk them out of it. Sign 4. Disagreement starts to feel like disrespect. Somewhere along the way, you see this differently than I do becomes indistinguishable from "you are attacking me." Psychologists call this identity fusion, the point where your beliefs and yourself become the same object. So any push against the belief feels like a push against the person. A growing mind can hold a view loosely enough to let it be tested. A stalled mind clutches. It gets defensive over things that don't require defending. It reads tone into neutral sentences. From the outside, it looks like conviction. It's actually fragility wearing conviction's coat. And once you see that pattern, the next habit becomes almost impossible to miss. Sign 5. Curiosity gets replaced by commentary. There's a subtle shift that happens in a mind that has quietly closed. It stops wondering about things and starts having takes on things. Every film is reviewed instead of watched. Every stranger is diagnosed instead of noticed. Every trend is dismissed instead of examined. This is what researchers on cognitive flexibility describe as a narrowing of the exploratory drive. The brain would rather rate the world than enter it. From the outside, it looks like sophistication, even wit. But there's a tell. A curious mind asks, "What is this?" A stalled mind asks, "What's wrong with this?" One opens the door, the other locks it and calls it discernment. And the next sign hides behind something almost everyone believes is harmless: personal taste. Sign 6, they treat their taste as a personality. At some point, the movies they like, the food they eat, the music they listen to at 19, the brand of coffee, the political tribe, all of it fuses into a single hard shell called who I am. Any suggestion outside that shell is felt as an insult, or at best a threat. Psychologists studying openness to experience, one of the most stable predictors of lifelong learning across the Big Five personality research, have found something quietly humbling. The people who keep growing well into old age are the ones who kept letting their taste evolve. They stayed willing to be a beginner in something. They tried the unfamiliar dish, watched the film they thought they'd hate, sat through the album that wasn't for them, and let it change them a little. A stalled mind, by contrast, defends its preferences like territory. It confuses having a self with having a fence around one. And the next sign is the one people are proudest of, which is exactly why it's dangerous. Sign 7, they've stopped being wrong about anything important. Listen for it. In conversation after conversation, they're never the one who misread the situation, never the one whose old opinion aged badly, never the one who owes anyone a quiet update. Everyone else has grown, changed their mind, learned something. They somehow were right the whole time. Psychologists studying the Dunning-Kruger effect have long noted that the surest sign of a shrinking mind isn't ignorance. It's the disappearance of the feeling of being wrong. Because being wrong, that small internal wince, is the actual physical sensation of learning. When it goes quiet, learning has gone quiet with it. From the outside, it can look like wisdom, especially the people who confuse never flinching with never faltering. From the inside, it's a mind that has slowly stopped auditing itself. And this next one is where the stall starts to affect the people around them. Sign 8, they mistake repetition for depth. They've watched the same shows for 20 years, held the same opinions since college, told the same jokes at the same points in the same conversations, and they call this being grounded. They'll tell you they know themselves. There's a real thing here. Research on habituation shows the brain genuinely does find comfort in the familiar. Dopamine settles when nothing new is being asked of it, and that settling can feel a lot like contentment. But comfort is not depth. Depth is what happens when you go further into something, not just longer. A growing mind reads a book at 40 and finds a different novel than the one it read at 20. A stalled mind reads it and finds proof it was right the first time. One is deepening, the other is just staying. And the last sign, the 9th, is the one almost no one catches in themselves because it disguises itself as the very thing we'd all say we want. Sign 9, they've started confusing certainty with peace. This is the quietest habit of all, and the most seductive. At some point, the noise in the head goes soft, not because the mind has integrated life's complexity, but because it has stopped inviting any. There are no more open questions. No more restless, what if I'm wrong about this? No more late-night rearrangements of a long-held belief. And it feels wonderful. It feels like maturity. It feels like finally arriving. But psychologists who study wisdom, researchers like Igor Grossman and the tradition that follows Erik Erikson, describe the genuinely wise mind almost the opposite way. Wisdom, in that work, is the ability to hold uncertainty without panic, not to escape it. It's the willingness to say, it depends, to see more than one side, to notice your own bias in the middle of forming an opinion. Real peace has soft edges and open windows. What imitates it is a mind that has quietly locked the door and called the silence enlightenment. And that's the difference the whole video has been circling. What's interesting is how consistently these 9 habits get misread by the people around them and by the person living inside them. From the outside, a stalled mind often looks impressive. It's confident, it's consistent, it has clear opinions and firm taste and a settled sense of self. It moves through the world like a person who has figured things out. And in a culture that rewards certainty and punishes visible doubt, that stalled version of a mind can pass for maturity for a very long time, sometimes for the rest of a life. But if you look closely, all 9 habits share a single quiet root. The mind has slowly traded the discomfort of growing for the comfort of being finished. It's chosen the smooth story over the true one. It's chosen the answer over the question. It's chosen the tribe over the question. It's chosen the tribe over the thought. And that trade almost always happens invisibly, in the small daily choice to not linger, to not reconsider, to not be curious about the thing that would cost you a little of your identity to understand. That's the part I want you to sit with for a moment. Because a growing mind isn't a smarter mind or a faster mind or a more educated one. It's a slightly braver one. It's the mind willing to update its old stories, to be wrong out loud, to stay a beginner in something new, to let an unfamiliar idea in before it's been sorted, to feel disagreement without flinching, to notice its own certainty as a symptom instead of a badge. None of that is wild. None of it looks like growth from the outside. It won't get you applause at dinner. It won't win an argument, but it's the difference between a mind that is still being written and one that has quietly closed its own book and put it back on the shelf. And if some of these landed a little uncomfortably close, that discomfort is actually a good sign, not a bad one. A truly stalled mind wouldn't have felt anything at all. It would have sorted this video into a category by minute 2 and moved on. The fact that one of these 9 nudged something in you means the door is still open. It means you're still the kind of person who can be honest about your own patterns. And in a world that rewards performance over honesty, that alone puts you in rare company. So here's what I genuinely love to know, and I do read every reply. Which of the 9 felt most like you, and which one felt most like someone in your life? I'm always fascinated by which sign lands hardest for which kind of viewer, because it tells me something about the season of mind you're currently in, and often the comment section ends up being more interesting than the video. If this way of thinking about the mind resonated with you, you'll want to stay close to this channel. I decode one hidden pattern of the mind each week, the kind of quiet psychology no one ever taught you, but that suddenly explains half the people you know, and sometimes yourself. Subscribe and turn the bell on so the next one actually reaches you, because these videos tend to arrive at exactly the moment you needed them. And if you want to keep going tonight, watch the one I'll leave on screen next. It's on the quiet traits of people whose minds keep growing well past the age most people stop. It pairs with this one like the other half of the same conversation, and it might be the more hopeful half. Because in the end, a mind doesn't stop growing when it runs out of time. It stops the moment it decides it's already arrived.